Computer Science and Engineering career panel. This is presented by the Science Success Center. My name is Jasmine McWells, and I am one of the Science Success Center counselors here. I also have my co-host, Darlene Nazario. She's also a counselor here at the Science Success Center. We're very excited to have everyone here. This is a very exciting time. This is kind of like a series that we do where we do just career panels for all the STEM majors that we serve in our center. So this will be our first for the fall, so very excited about that. I'm also excited because we have some amazing guest speakers for today, and I'll also be kind of introducing you to them. Some of you may already know who they are. They may look familiar, but I'm really happy that they agreed to be with us today. Before we even get started, please, for all of my Science Success Center students, please make sure that you click on the link. I believe it should be on the chat now to sign in. This is the only way to get credit for your participation. That is a program requirement. So please be sure to click on the link in the chat, sign in, so that you can get that participation credit. Okay. And why don't we go ahead and just kind of jump in here. So I know some students are still kind of jumping in. Welcome for those of you who just jumped in. So we have some amazing guest speakers. Like I've mentioned, we have 3 panelists who are all a part of the school, the university. So I'll be introducing everyone here, and then we'll kind of jump into our questions, okay? Just know that this is pretty much going to be a discussion for all of my students. Please take advantage of this moment as well. This is your time to ask questions from these professionals. For those who were once in your shoes, who were once a student, they're now professionals in their field. So please take advantage, ask questions. I'll give you all time to ask your questions as well, but please take advantage. So I want to introduce our first panelist. Today we have Andrew Tran. Andrew Tran is an alumni from the University, California State, San Bernardino, so very exciting. He holds a Master's of Science in the degree a computer science, and currently works as a web developer here as well. So Andrew, thank you for coming in. I also want to introduce, the screen froze. Okay. Oops, there we go, back. Okay. I also want to introduce our second panelist for today, Dr. Fadi Mohadet. And Dr. Fadi is an assistant professor for the computer science and engineering here at San Bernardino. Currently holds a PhD in electrical and computer engineering from the University of Missouri, Master of Science in electrical and computer engineering, as well from the University of Missouri. And interests do include elder care, technology, assistive living, Internet of Things, IoT, and cyber physical systems. Dr. Fadi, there's so much more that you added. The screen was only so big, but very, very exciting in his lab in emerging technologies and applications, as well as cyber physical systems, architecture, communication, and security. Recent research projects on high performance computing, engineering educations, and the use of extended reality, XR, and education. So thank you, Dr. Fadi, for joining us.
Thank you.
And last, but of course not least, Dr. Balil Khan. Dr. Khan currently teaches here at Cal State San Bernardino as the assistant professor for the School of Computer Science and Engineering, holds a PhD in computer science, artificial intelligence, Master of Science in Pervasive Computing and Computer Science, and interested in the applications of artificial intelligence techniques. Dr. Khan, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, so this is how we're pretty much going to get started with our panel. I want to ask everyone just pretty much a basic question to give us all an idea of, or rather more in depth of who you are, your educational experience. How did your education bring you to, say, your first job? And how have you progressed to where you are now? After that first question, I will be also opening the floor for any students who may have some burning questions for you. So for students who have questions, please throw your questions in the chat. Darlene will be monitoring the chat and we'll ask those questions. And if we don't have any questions, I also have my own list of questions that I'm just waiting to ask, okay? So again, the first question will be, and I'm actually gonna get rid of this, I'm gonna stop sharing. But the first question is, your educational experience. How did that kind of bring you to your first job? And if you can just walk us through, how did you get to where you are today? And anyone can start.
Go alphabetical, maybe Andrew.
I'm sorry, what was that?
We just introduced Andrew to start.
Oh.
Yeah, I could start. So yeah, I started my degree in my master's in about 2017. And originally I wanted to go in for bioinformatics, but along the way I had a very high interest in database development. So that's where I kind of got my start. That's where I met my mentor, who eventually got onto my committee for my master's project. And from them, I was able to they encouraged me to apply for this job on campus as a database developer, as a research technician. And from there, I've kind of grown, and I'm more leaning towards more of a full stack developer kind of position right now. So essentially I started off as database development. Now I'm working on both front end and back end web development on campus.
Very nice. Thank you, Andrew.
Come on, Bilal, we said alphabetical, so I should be.
Okay, I thought I was at last in the order, but yes, sure. Why not? Yeah, so I think some of the people know me already in the audience. Some of them are taking my courses. My name is Bilal Khan, and I hold a PhD in computer science, artificial intelligence, and also a master's in computer science. And my original, basically, PhD research work was in satellite communication, but then I was fortunate enough to switch fields at least a couple of times. I did quite a lot of research work in the field of nanotechnology, nanomaterial impact assessment, when I was at UCLA for about almost a decade. And I was also fortunate enough to co-found a technology startup in Los Angeles area that's also in a reverse osmosis water treatment industry. And the common thing was basically that I applied various artificial intelligence, machine learning techniques to solve several problems, such as nanotechnology impact assessment and water treatment industry, optimization of the control and system processes using artificial intelligence and machine learning techniques. Some of them were basically made quite a lot of profit. For example, the company is doing pretty well. And quite a lot of them basically gave quite a few publications. And in terms of going to the first job, it feels like a long journey now, even though I don't feel I'm that old yet, but it feels like a long journey. My first job, very first job, was in England, because I did my master's and PhD from England. And it was actually a customer service assistant at a clothing store while I was doing my my master's. So I started from there, but I was able to have an internship at a technology company, a gaming company, a very small startup at that time. And I was able to basically get only the bus fare for going to the company and coming back home, but it gave me a lot of opportunity to, to actually meet with great, team players and experts, to learn from them and then help them in some way to, to design, video games at that time. It was actually quite a while ago, about 15 years ago. So that was where I started. But then, as I said, I was able to switch, fields quite a few times. But the most common thing was the artificial intelligence and machine learning that I take a lot of interest in.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Well, that's keeping you last. Well, I will. I'll talk about my experience. Actually, I'm very similar to maybe most of you guys. When you graduate, you will face. I finished my degree or undergrad in 2000, where my first job also was in 2000, June 20, actually, in 2000, where I attended a career fair. I'm a electrical and computer engineering. My last lab was computer architecture, and I was building like a mini computer. So I was hoping that I will be working in industry to build the computers, but eventually I end up with doing a web development. So that's a message to all of you. Don't feel bad about whatever low-level, high-level job that you will get at the beginning. Just accept it. Get there, have your hands dirty, get your skills, meet more people. So that's what happened. I have high expectations while before graduating, but the first job I got, I just hold it like this. So I worked for web development for almost 6 to 8 months. Unluckily, we had a restructuring in the company. We failed as a company in one of the major projects due to miscommunication between the project managers. And again, this is real life. So we paid the price, those low, entry-level programmers. Then, luckily, I get another job in a network company where I was simply answering clients' calls about their internet connections. Maybe you are young enough to handle what is the dial-up internet, but definitely you will hear about it in YouTube, not in real life now. So I was doing this. Then, luckily, also I had a great experience with another engineer who introduced me to Cisco routers, internet, security, and all that stuff. That got my attention. Now I changed my mentality into that field. I found myself there. Then I start taking like certificates, taking like more training, more professional training, and I continued in that field until I came to the US, where I want to pursue my dream of getting my PhD. So I came here to the US, get my PhD in computer science and engineering, or electrical and computer engineering, basically. And love academy. Part of it, my mother wanted me to be a PhD, to be honest with you, not only about me. So out of her respect to her, I continue doing that. So it was difficult. Should I mention that I was married? I have my daughter back home at that time. So being away from them, living in the very, very minimal, salary and as a TA in the university, definitely helped me shape my character to be, to kind of have more endurance, live with the minimal, aim for, I know that my future will be more bright, but I have to live this hardship at the beginning. So I was not ashamed of cleaning dishes in the restaurants, in my university. Even though I was a PhD and I was teaching my students who were eating in the same restaurant, I was cleaning dishes. So never ever be a problem for me, because again, I have high hopes for my future. And here we are. Now I am actually associate professor, recently promoted. Thank you for our college department, Dean Sastry, who supported me big time, and my colleagues in the department also. So, and for you, CSUS SV students, who a great deal of my report that make me qualified for the pre-tenure and promotion is because of you. Your feedback, your comments, your involvement in my research, and involvement in making my classes success and make me successful as well. So that's in a brief my journey, and definitely I learned a lot. I went through obstacles and hiccups in my life, but look, I'm always smiling. So that's eventually what I end up with.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for everyone for kind of giving us a better idea of who you are and your stories. And thank you, Dr. Fadi, for also sharing that story. It's very important for us to know that sometimes our path is never just a straight line. Sometimes we have our ups or downs. Sometimes we have to turn around. There's all types of twists and turns in our lives. But to show where you are is very inspiring. So thank you for opening up about that. I think we have a question in the chat. Darling, do we have a question in the chat?
We do. So I do have this question from a student. Do you think it's beneficial to aim for a master's or a PhD degree and learn more about the theory in computer science, or is it better to find an internship and a job after getting your bachelor's degree? And of course, any of our panelists that's open to, anyone wants to answer that.
I hope if you guys don't mind, I'll just,
Go ahead.
you know,
Go ahead.
Go for it.
I'll just briefly describe based on my personal experience is that I think, first of all, basically it really depends on what situation you are in. You know, getting a graduate, you have to set the goal. You have to set the goal for yourself. What do you really want to do? Is your graduation really for a purpose of getting a high-tech job? And then just pursue your career for, you know, a year, a couple of years, several years, and then, you know, improve upon that. In that case, you know, you really definitely want to basically get internships and get work, even if it is, you know, a very, very low paid job. These are great opportunities that you can get and work in the industry and just build experience. And master's becomes an important thing when you really actually have a job and you have, like, you know, you want to make a choice. You, for example, you want to switch a career, want to learn something new, you know, just like take maybe go into a separate field or something. Then master's basically can get you there by learning, you know, new things, because, you know, technology, as all of us know, it evolves very rapidly. You can get, you know, points of view from experts. You can get expert professors, and then you can get the masters and build upon the knowledge that you all have already gained from certain job that you have done for. Definitely, the choice between these two is actually not very straightforward. One is not better over the other. Like, you know, it really depends on what your really goal is. Are you really interested in becoming a professional who would, like, you know, who is curious, who wants to innovate, who wants to, you know, become known as a, you know, high quality professional in the community? You know, masters, even a PhD, you know, is a, because, you know, we are PhDs, and I will always recommend to do a PhD and do research and become a good, you know, well-known professional with a good stature. So it depends on what your really goal is. Your goal setting is going to be very important in the beginning, that you really want to become a technical professional. For that, it's very important to build experience even while you're graduating. Even you don't have to wait, you know, for your graduation to be completed. It is never too early to make a decision to just go either, you know, to become an independent, you know, professional, work with, you know, teams, because even with the internships, you can get really good experience from experts who you work with. Even if it is a junior, you know, level position, you can always get perspectives from different directions, because as juniors or as fresh graduates, all what we think is that it's going to be a 9-to-5 job. I'm going to have to just like do something over and over, develop programs, develop software, or solve, you know, mathematical problems for some sort of company. It's way beyond that, to be honest. You have to be, you know, a very, very good listener. Your communication skills have to be very, very important. Communication is the key. Problem solving, obviously, especially in STEM career, it's going to be very important. Problem solving skills. You have to build your own critical thinking. And where does this come from? These, you know, opportunities that you have to avail. And you, as what Dr. Fadi said just a few minutes ago, that don't be shy of accepting a position. Don't be shy of like, oh, maybe this is way too low in terms of the payment, or it is not at the caliber of what I was expecting. Who knows? You might in a couple of months, if you prove to be a good, you know, team worker, you might get promoted and you might get a full-time position. So once again, making a switch, not very easy, but once you have a very clear goal in the front that you really want to become an industrial professional, a programmer, then it is good to just, you know, avail these opportunities and start applying for jobs. Even before your, you know, in the last semester, before your graduation, you can start applying for jobs. If your goal is to become a professional, well-known professional that is well-known out there in the community, who is very curious, innovative, who wants to innovate, who even wants to just, build their own startup, build their own company. Higher education is very important also for that too. So once your goal basically is set, you know what you really want to do, making this choice becomes very, very easy. If you want to, for example, like at our startup, I always tell students to, basically apply for internships and get some very high quality work done, even build about like 4 months of experience. That is great, because that then gives you opportunities to apply for jobs and basically get jobs of, your expectation, what you want to apply for.
Yeah, very amazing response to that. Pretty much taking advantage of the resources, speaking to professors, and just really jumping on the job applications, kind of like what you were mentioning too, just taking advantage of all of those resources, very, very important. So thank you for kind of diving into that question. Please, for all of my other students, please feel free to add more questions to the chat if you have any. If not, I'll just continue to ask my own questions. But if you have like a burning question, please feel free to jump in on that. Okay, so I think I want to ask, what was the job search and also the application like for you? Was it very challenging? Was it pretty straightforward, easy? I know we kind of touched upon that just a little bit, but does anyone want to kind of like explain a little bit deeper into that process? Because I'm sorry, and also based off of a lot of students, it seems a little daunting, especially those who are in their last years. How do you get started with the job process? How do you start with a job application? So maybe we can kind of speak on that.
So I guess I guess for me, it's just apply, right? Don't think of like, don't sell yourself short, just apply, even if you don't feel like you meet all the criteria, because at the worst case, they tell you no. And then at the best case, if they still tell you no, you'll still get something out of it. You'll be learning something from the interview. You'll be learning how to conduct yourself during interviews. You'll be learning how to answer questions. So just apply is probably the best advice I could give you. Because it's what you make of it, right? You could just, after an interview, you could be like, oh, I completely bombed it, but you could just take it the other way around. Oh, so this is the type of things that they're expecting from me in interviews. And then the more interviews you do, the more comfortable you get doing it. And then the more comfortable you get doing it, the more confident you are in your interviews, until eventually you'll get to the point where, you'll start expecting what the interviewers are going to be throwing at you. So yeah, my advice was just apply, even if you don't think you fully meet the criteria. It's just, you never know.
Was it also very time consuming for you, Andrew? Did you like start applying after your master's, or did you start applying? How did that work?
So I started applying towards my last year of my master's. Around that time, all of my colleagues there started applying too. So just me looking around, be like, oh, it's probably a good time right now. Just kind of like, okay, I'm following my peers and following the crowd and like what I should be doing around that time. And yeah, just application after application until eventually, fortunately, I had my mentor with me who said, I think you'd be a good fit for this position. So just apply and see what happens. And yeah, I ended up getting it as a database developer / research tech over at Institutional Research.
Can I add something, if you don't mind? I mean, I didn't apply for jobs here in the US because I'm basically international, but based on my interaction with employers, with other alumni who graduated from here, and some students whom I advised, if I would say in our advising in the computer science and engineering, generally speaking, we start when students around like end of sophomore start to get into the junior, where we start embed a career advising. So we kind of try to give the students the exposure about the importance of planning your career way ahead of time. Not necessarily you apply for the job at the junior level, but at least think about what I need to be successful. If I have an internship experience, that would be greatly appreciated. That will support my application. Then if you are not a junior, you are now senior, you are graduating soon, for example, or in 6 months or in a year, definitely you have to start with your GitHub sorry, your LinkedIn profile, for example, build in your GitHub, build your portfolio, especially in computer science. Most of our classes have projects, or maybe you did your own home, like, you know, personal projects. Some of us might have an internship that you can, most of the job interview will be around your internship, what you did and how your experience. And sometimes you have your own personal project that you put in GitHub so that you can get the attention of the employer. So it really, really starts as early as possible with building your LinkedIn, GitHub, and that profile. Another advice I want to tell you, which Andrew mentioned, is people who wrote those job descriptions, by the way, those are HR. Those are not the people who will interview you and technical. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't be like, think, oh my God, I'm disqualified. No, don't make those requirements stop you from applying. Apply, apply, apply. Some successful students whom I know personally, who now work on either Amazon, Google, or other, or Esri, for example, or Siemens, or they applied maybe 100 job applications. They wrote 100 cover letter. You can imagine writing 100 cover letter for different jobs, detailed or tailored toward that specific job. It's a lot of work, definitely, but don't give up. I mean, this is part, and you might apply for 5 jobs, you get the job, don't get me wrong, but it's a process. It's not something that will start immediately after you graduate and you should get a job like immediately after you graduate. So plan ahead of time, as early as junior level, and move forward.
Dr. Khan, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I would like to add to what Dr. Fadi just mentioned, you know, so definitely attend career events like this, definitely go to different events, build relationships, you know, learn how to craft your LinkedIn profile, learn how to craft your resume, practice, you know, if you're a science or programming or, you know, fields where you need some like technical work, do more and more practice, because programming and solving problems like these isn't only just the natural instinct or natural intelligence. The more you practice, the better you get. And, you know, build your resume, attend, you know, just go to the career events, join some, you know, organizations, and even, you know, go to your department, learn about different events, how to craft your resume, how to even write a really good cover letter, and how to craft basically your cover letter or your job application according to what, you know, what the jobs request for. And, you know, it's a very difficult question, to be honest, like in the industry, from my industrial experience, is that sometimes the interviews are like so mouthful, or even real job description basically so mouthful. There are so many, you know, buzzwords that are thrown in there. You know, most of the times the interviews that you have to go over, they really don't have anything to do with the actual job that you're gonna do. You can forget that after you just get hired, or after you just do the interview. You can forget about what you talked about in the interview until it comes for the next time, you know, if you're hired. But the important question basically is that to basically, you know, prepare yourself. You know, there are several, you know, books, online resources that you can take advantage of, be part of, you know, the cohorts, build relationships. They are extremely important. Going to different events, you know, even meeting people and just learning and having some advice and just sharing contacts. I think it's very important to get a job in the, you know, and then, you know, also have to have like good soft skills. For example, interpersonal skills, communication skills, because one of the 3 pillars that I have learned from the company that I, you know, ran for over 3 years. One of them is that you have to be very good at what you do. You have to be very good at what you do. You have to prepare yourself. And then the second most important thing is that, you know, people should like you. Who you work with, you know, you're likable. Basically, you have a good personality, you have good interpersonal skills, good communication skills. And where do those come from? You have to attend, you know, different events. You have to build relationships, and you have to communicate. You have to basically improve your communication skills. Obviously, there are not as great resources when you're studying, you know, on school, because you're overwhelmed with tons and tons of coursework. exams, et cetera. Sometimes it's difficult to go to these events or something. Then there are online resources. You can read books. There are plenty of online resources, books that you can take advantage of. Just read about that. One thing that, I've lived in LA for a very long time, and I can tell you that getting a job there, you have to basically, the rule of thumb is that you have to have over 100 applications submitted, over 100 job applications that you have to apply for in order to get about 4 to 5 interviews. So 4 to 5 interviews, and then you have to make sure that you have to basically, you excel at the interviews. And how do you improve? You have to take parts in, competitions such as Kaggle competition, such as, other, online resources that you can take advantage of, Udemy, Coursera, et cetera, et cetera. You can attend these kinds of events and build your experience. You can, even have, buy some books, purchase some books. There are a few books that even I can mention. I wish I had a small kind of PowerPoint that I could have shared, but I will share with you guys once after this event. You can utilize all those resources and make sure that you practice, and just, craft your skills, and be sure that also one more point, also be sure that you want to do something that is fit, that is fit for you, that really is fit for you, that you really love. You have to love what you do, not do something that you fit for, because you can get into a difficult, situation, into difficult situations. After several months, you can gradually, start not liking your job as much as you used to. So you really have to make sure that you have to pick up the opportunities, or apply for the opportunities that really fit well for you. So you have to make sure that you just basically craft yourself. You practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to follow up on what Dr. Khan said, there's a lot of resources on campus. That's one of the benefits of being here at Cal State San Bernardino. There's resume writing workshops, there's cover letter writing workshops, there's coding fairs, hackathons, all that. So just be on the lookout for things that might interest you, and in ways that can help develop you. I think one of my favorite, one of the things that helps me keeps me going is just having an open mind, is just staying curious, right? As Dr. Khan mentioned, Udemy is one of my favorite platforms to kind of get practice, especially if I'm looking at something and I was like, this looks pretty cool, or I kind of want to get start learning about these things. There's tons of resources online that you guys could look into as well.
Yeah, very good point. I think a lot of students can sometimes look at the whole hiring process, the job process, as very daunting. It's a lot, especially as an emerging professional, it seems even scary. But I do appreciate what you said as well, Andrew, just staying curious. And also, as well, Dr. Khan mentioned about soft skills, just developing those things. And something I also want to encourage all the students, you can't do it all in one day. It's not going to happen. You have to be very intentional. If there's just one day where you have a little bit of free time, you see kind of like what Andrew was saying, hey, there's a, say a LinkedIn workshop, there's a resume workshop, go to it. Even if it's not part of the SSC requirements or no one's telling you to do it, you should do it for yourself. And that's what we call investing in yourself. And it's really going to pay off. I know when I was a senior in college, I tried to do everything all at once in my last year, and it was very overwhelming. But if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, start today, start now, and just take it step by step. So thank you for sharing all of that advice, everyone. Very great. Also, I want to know really quickly, how has LinkedIn kind of helped you as well in terms of networking with other professionals? I know that's really big right now. You're able to connect with a lot of professionals who are outside of your kind of circle, if you will. Has LinkedIn helped you? Or maybe, I know a lot of students may use Handshake. Have any of those platforms helped you?
I think I would say it helped us a lot in actually one perspective, when we were trying to promote the company, promote the startup, and we would basically share different events, or even look at different events and register through LinkedIn, and we would get a lot of contacts about the investment, about the technology, and they want to make an investment. And then we would actually get a lot of contacts from there and build relationships, from there. In terms of the application, it definitely is helpful. Although honestly, I would say, I haven't interacted or, I haven't utilized LinkedIn as much as I should have in terms of applying for, for jobs, etc. It's just because there's no specific reason for that. It's just because since I, when I came to UCLA, more than a decade ago, I just stayed at UCLA for a very long time, and I never felt, because I loved doing the machine learning and AI part at the nanotechnology center there too. I actually, for the majority of the time, I did not feel to, apply elsewhere and just go and change, because it was very exciting. It was very exciting, but LinkedIn was extremely helpful for promoting the company, promoting the business, and even applying at different places, because what we would do is we would, post the jobs on different, platforms. And LinkedIn was the one where we would get most of the applications, most of the applicants, and then we would interview them and hire people. So LinkedIn in that sense was extremely helpful, for sure.
Yeah.
I have a comment about LinkedIn. I mean, the way I used it, other than what Dr. Khan mentioned, is there's a lot of groups on LinkedIn where you might develop a curiosity, and you might even change your way of thinking. For example, I'm in computer science, but I found a group who are talking about natural language processing. I never thought about going that field, but with this group and how much active they are, I start to develop an interest. And that actually echo back to the question about, should I go to the master program or should I go to industry immediately? My philosophy, which I learned from my professor who taught me when I was undergrad, he said, no matter what, go to the industry, because when you are in the industry, that might change your mind. If I want to go to cybersecurity, I love it, I want to do masters there. But if you work, you might change your mind and says, no, I want to do more machine learning, or I want to go to computer engineering, I want to be a hardware and embedded system software programmer, whatever it is. So being in industry might put you in the right position where you really fit as a person, know your skill better, and know where you want to go next, so that you can even be a star rather than just a certificate in your in the wall. So thank you.
Yeah, I haven't really used LinkedIn as much recently, but from what I remember is that compared to like job posting sites like Indeed or ZipRecruiter or whatever, LinkedIn recruiters are more likely to reach out to you, especially if you've been building out your LinkedIn profile, right? You can like hit certain keywords and people be more interested, especially like if you're like working on projects and you're just, adding more and more and more stuff to it, you'll be more visible to recruiters, from my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I must have to say that LinkedIn basically has two like really cool features. One is that you basically, as I mentioned in the earlier, that you really have to craft your resume and to describe how how good you are, and the kind of words that you use. LinkedIn is very careful about that. One cool feature is that LinkedIn can produce a really nice, good-looking resume from what you input into the into your profile. So you can create a resume from right there, and that it actually is pretty good looking. That I have done that before. And another thing is that LinkedIn has really sophisticated algorithms to basically to look at the words, buzzwords, and then it sends to those recruiters that are basically very actively looking at LinkedIn for some potential employees, future employees. So it allows, basically LinkedIn has its own built-in intrinsic feature that it looks at different words, and then it brings your profile up in the front, and then the recruiters basically are able to get in touch with you. I can tell you there are so many, like since we started the company, there have been so many recruiters company and hiring managers who would just send me messages and say, here's the job description, and we really think that you're going to be perfect for this job position, and we would like to have an interview, et cetera, et cetera. Most of the times I just had to either, reject it and said, I'm sorry, I'm already involved. But it actually is a very cool feature, because the way you craft, the way you put your description in LinkedIn, it can actually span and get to, tens, if not hundreds of different recruiters, and another good thing that what Dr. Fadi, just mentioned earlier is that you might be thinking that, oh, I am a, let's say, JavaScript programmer, and I can only do, let's say, just the web development. What am I going to do if the job description has something to do with Python, or design this complete database schema, because I don't have, much of the work. You actually interact with those people, and then you get to realize and get to learn that the skills that you have in one very specific field, you can really apply those in a separate different skill, and that becomes a motivation. That becomes curiosity. You get more curious, you get more, motivated, committed, and then you say, really, I have this programming skill, or I have this like certain one or set of skills that I can really apply in a separate discipline, because it's just the machinery behind, the new idea is actually the same. So I'll be able to do that. Then you get to, meet and look at different, different ideas from different groups. Then you're able to expand your horizon, and then be able to just, say, oh, well, I'm not as, like less experienced as I am expecting myself to be, because the work, the kind of work, the quality of work that I do, it is really applicable in multiple different, disciplines too.
Yeah. I think it's really important, from what I'm pulling from what everyone was saying. I always tell my students, work smarter, not harder. And I think a lot of these platforms kind of help you to kind of reach out, kind of put your hand in the pot, as in my family we would say, in multiple pots. So instead of just kind of sticking within your own, circle, you can meet other people that you probably would have never met in person. So I think definitely utilizing those platforms. I know for myself, I kind of have to push myself to use those platforms as well, but I have used it as well, and it's been beneficial when I do take advantage of those resources. Okay, so what I want to do, I just want to ask if any students have any questions. If you want to just kind of shout it out, or if you just want to type in the chat, I want to make sure everyone has that opportunity to ask any burning questions that they may have. So I'll take a few seconds to wait. If anyone has any questions, feel free to speak out or type in the chat. Okay. Perfect. So I just wanted to make sure if anyone had any questions. So I think we could probably wrap up with one more question. I know we kind of talked about advice, a lot of advice actually. So I think that's been really great. How about, did anyone have any mentors that you kind of had for your experience while you're in college? Did anyone kind of inspire you, help lead you to maybe where you are today, help you get through some challenges?
I will go first, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Well, I mean, besides our academic advisor, which is their job basically to mentor us, right? And put us kind of in the right direction and support our application, our work, and, kind of help us in the graduation process. I have I call him a life mentor, who is a friend. He's a psychiatrist, sorry, who was my life mentor. So smart that he understands what I'm doing, keep asking me questions, giving me advice in the life level, even sometimes ideas when I talk about my research. He completely engaged in my research and start giving me ideas. So again, other than my great support from my advisor, this person, he really helped me shape my character and actually give me an advice and understanding on how to deal with my students, because seeing him as a psychiatrist, a professional in that field, I was hoping that I got some of the skills, I earned some of his skills that I used in my career. So that's in brief, the advice or the mentor home really changed a lot of my life and the way I am as a person as well.
Thank you.
Andrew, do you want to go next, or I can wait if you want to go next?
Yeah, sure, I could go next. So one of my mentors right now, she's actually working upstairs from me. She was the one who kind of got me interested in database development in the first place, but she's always been somebody who's been looking out for me and always encourages me to like do better. Every time like I feel like I'm like, oh, I don't know, like maybe maybe this is good enough. She's like, no, I think you can do more. So having somebody who constantly looks out for you and somebody who like knows like where your potential could be, and somebody who like pushes you and drives you to become like a better person, a better like version of yourself, I think it's a really good aspect of as a mentor.
So I think for me, I really wish if I had a designated or a mentor when I was in college. Even though there were a few occasions where I received like very helpful career or lifetime advice, which was great. Such as I basically was completely new to programming when I was doing my master's, and I had to learn C programming language, and our computer science or C programming language instructor, he was basically, he would identify, like while in the class, he would identify the weakness that I had, because he knew that I did not have a computer science background. And then he would help me go like get through some of the difficult times and be able to be comfortable with the programming language. He would come to me and he would literally ask me specific questions about where I'm feeling the difficulty. And I still remember with I'll tell you the advice after this certain event that really motivated me. He basically gave us an assignment about to print a diamond in a command prompt using a C program by printing different stars, and it should like look like a diamond. And he said that if I am able to program without any external help, and if I'm able to program and code that diamond to print that diamond, he will officially call me a programmer. And then I was able to just spend a couple of days and a couple of nights, and I was able to do it. And he's like, did you get any help? Did you copy and paste anything from anywhere? I said, no, I promise I didn't do it. And then he's like, you are a programmer in my class. You are equal, to any other programmers. And that was a very, very, like good, mentorship that I had, like very brief. And then he would say that, you are now actually, you have built the base, and now you are going to design your entire career, just like, you have the base now, and it is up to you what kind of a house that you want to build, on top of it. And he said that now you've got the base, and now you have to shape yourself, and you have to build your career on top of it. And then I think I wish, until I got to UCLA, and the type of, mentor that I had there, basically he was my line manager too when I started as a postdoc there. And I wish I had a mentor like that. I mean, sometimes his advice and his response on our work, on my work, was so painful that I could have gone through like some sleepless nights. But his direction and his mentorship was very very meaningful to me, that the past 10 years basically completely transformed me from being a student to a complete professional. And that was extremely helpful. And to this day, I actually call him my academic father, because he really, really helped me a lot. But I wish that kind of mentorship, I could even receive like even a tiny percentage of it when I was a college student.
Yeah, that's amazing. Mentors are just so vital to our success. And I just encourage all the students, continue to reach out. And I know sometimes we kind of get caught up in the everyday kind of schedule of go to class, do your homework, do this, do that. But really start reaching out and making connections. And who knows, you may just find that mentor who will just kind of guide you along and just show something that you never knew about yourself as a rising professional. They're just such a treasure. So I really do appreciate everyone's experience, sharing your experience with that. I know we're coming up to the end of our time. Panelists, do you have any last brief words that you want to share? Anything you want to share with students? If not, we can move forward.
Yeah, or can I also add, if any of our panelists are willing to maybe drop their email in the chat, if a student might have a question later. Of course, it's completely optional, but I think that would be really a great opportunity for our students as well.
Yes, I put my email. Actually, I have one last advice. Sometimes when you apply for a job, people ask or put in their job description that the ability to relocate. Don't ever limit yourself to California. Yes, we need to be close to our families, but guys, a huge opportunity when you go outside. Go there, explore the life, build your career, build your character, figure out your choices. Don't limit yourself to your environment. I understand if you have to, you have to, but if you have the opportunity, go explore it. And that will be a huge life lesson and change and personality as well. And again, when opportunity comes, it comes once. Use it, benefit from it, and stick to it. And I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for everyone who invited us, allow us to share our humble experience. And here are our emails. Hopefully we can communicate. Feel free to reach out to us at any time as well. And thank you guys so much for the Success Center, for what you are doing. It's really amazing to have such an event. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I want to thank all of my panelists, Dr. Khan, Dr. Fadi,